Every generation has its uniform, a way of saying, I belong here, but no subculture on earth has dressed quite like ravers. Fur boots in the mud, goggles that never see a workshop, outfits that glow in frequencies most people never notice. This is not fashion by accident, this is fashion as philosophy. And for over 30 years, it has never stopped evolving. Before the festivals, before the influencers, before any brand cared about electronic music, there were the warehouses. In the early 1990s, rave culture was genuinely underground. Events were announced through phone trees and photocopied flyers. You didn't find the party. The party found you baggy clothes, comfortable shoes, layers you could peel off when a packed warehouse became unbearable. This wasn't a runway, it was survival gear for an 8-hour dance session. But even in this rawness, something deeper was forming. The ethos of PLUR, peace, love, unity, respect, became the unspoken code. Smiley face t-shirts weren't just graphics, they were signals. If you wore one, you understood. Bright colors started appearing, not to impress anyone, but because in a dark room with only UV light, you wanted to be seen by the people on your frequency. Fashion born from function, and from a radical idea, in this space you could wear whatever made you feel free. By the mid-90s, the music was getting faster, harder, more futuristic, drum and bass, happy hardcore, trance. And rave fashion followed the sound straight into the future. Platform boots, synthetic dreads in electric blue, reflective goggles, gas masks repurposed as accessories, PVC and chain harnesses over mesh. If early rave fashion said I am comfortable, cyber rave said I am from the year 3000 and I came back to dance. This was armor. Fashion as a force field between the mainstream world and the world ravers were building for themselves. And then there was kandi, bracelets handmade from cheap plastic pony beads. The single most important accessory in rave culture, not because of how they looked, but because of what they meant. You made them. You traded them with the PLUR handshake. Each one carried a connection with a stranger who, for one night, was not a stranger at all. A wristful of kandi was a wristful of memories. No luxury brand has ever created something with that kind of emotional value. The year 2000 hit, and rave fashion entered maybe its most iconic phase. JNCO jeans, kickwear, UFOs. Pants so wide you could fit a small tent inside each leg. From the outside, absurd. From the inside, perfect sense. Wide pants turned every step into a visual event. When you shuffled and everyone shuffled, the fabric amplified the movement. Your body became part of the light show. Pair those with a mesh top, a handful of glow sticks cracked and tucked into every seam, and a pacifier on a string, and you had the uniform of an entire generation. The trance and Eurodance scenes embraced this maximalism. You dressed to match the music, layered, building, euphoric. Fashion wasn't just reflecting the culture anymore, it was performing it. Somewhere around 2005, electronic music did something it had never done before. It moved indoors, into proper venues, with proper lighting and proper dress codes. Las Vegas became the unlikely capital of electronic music. Ibiza went from a hippie island to a global brand, and the people in the room weren't just ravers anymore, they were clubbers, tourists, celebrities. Fashion followed the money. Baggy pants disappeared, fitted clothes came in, designer labels appeared on dance floors for the first time. The aesthetic shifted toward club glamour, including heels, sequins, and slim fits. The old guard hated it, and they had a point. Something raw and democratic was being polished into something exclusive. But every time the mainstream absorbs a rave trend, the underground invents something new. That cycle has never broken. This is the era that changed rave fashion forever, not because of what people wore, but because of who was watching. Between 2010 and 2015, electronic dance music festivals exploded into the mainstream. EDC moved to Las Vegas and sold out 130,000 tickets. Tomorrowland became the most watched live music stream on YouTube. Ultra became a rite of passage. And for the first time in rave history, millions of people who had never set foot on a dance floor could see what ravers looked like. Flower crowns, face gems, spirit hoods, body chains. The festival fashion industry appeared almost overnight. Brands built entire businesses around outfits designed specifically for festivals. Kandi culture, once a deeply personal underground tradition, went mainstream. Trading tutorials had millions of views. The PLUR handshake became a photo opportunity. LED gloves became an art form, spawning competitions in their own subculture. And then Instagram changed the equation entirely. For the first time, what you wore to a rave wasn't just for the rave, it was for the feed. The outfit had to be content. Rave fashion had always been about self-expression in the moment. Now it was also about self-presentation to an audience that wasn't even there. Some saw it as the death of authenticity. Others saw it as the natural evolution of a culture that had always been about being seen. By 2016, a new sound was reshaping the scene. Trap, dubstep, and bass music had grown from niche genres into dominant forces, and they brought a completely different visual identity. The flower crowns disappeared. In their place were all black outfits, cargo pants, combat boots, and techwear jackets with more zippers than a hardware store. Streetwear brands like Supreme, Off-White, and Nike started appearing on festival grounds. At the same time, techno's resurgence brought its own aesthetic, minimal and monochrome, almost brutalist. If you showed up to Berghain in a flower crown, you would be turned away at the door. Rave fashion was fracturing, and that was actually beautiful. For the first time, there was not one rave look, there were dozens. Your outfit telegraphed not just that you were a raver, but what kind of raver you were, what sound you followed, and what community you belonged to. Fashion had become a dialect. And then the music stopped. March 2020. Every festival canceled, every club closed. For a culture built entirely around gathering, the pandemic was existential. But ravers adapted. Virtual festivals emerged. Live streams became ritual. And fashion, stripped of its audience, became even more personal. DIY culture surged. TikTok tutorials on homemade rave gear exploded. Without the crowd to dress for, people started dressing for themselves again, and the outfits got weirder, braver, more honest. When the world reopened, the energy was different. People showed up dressed like they had something to prove. Nostalgia hit hard. The 1990s aesthetics came roaring back. Baggy pants, bucket hats, smiley faces. They were remixed through a modern lens. Rave fashion in 2023 through 2025 is the most diverse, technically advanced, and intentional it has ever been. The old boundaries between eras have dissolved. 1990s revival baggy pants sit next to full cybercore bodysuits and minimalist techno black. And nobody blinks. 3 trends define this moment. The functional aesthetic hybrid, clothing that looks extraordinary but actually works. Breathable fabrics, smart pockets, shoes you can dance in for 10 hours. The old choice between looking good and feeling good has been eliminated. Sustainability. Fast fashion festival outfits, worn once and discarded, are falling out of favor. Thrifted pieces, upcycled materials, and ethically manufactured brands are gaining ground. Technology. Audio reactive clothing that responds to music in real time. Fiber optic fabrics. EL wire woven with the precision of haute couture. The line between wearing an outfit and wearing a light installation has blurred beyond recognition. Kandi endures beneath it all, still handmade, still traded with the PLUR handshake, still carrying the DNA of a culture that believes a plastic bead bracelet can mean more than a diamond. So why does any of this matter? Because rave fashion has never been about fashion. It is about identity. In a world that constantly tells people to tone it down and blend in, rave culture says the opposite. Be louder, be stranger, be exactly the version of yourself you are afraid to be on Monday morning. it is about community. When you trade kandi with a stranger at 3 in the morning, you're participating in something older than any specific song or DJ. You are participating in the human need to belong. And it is about ritual. Getting ready for a rave is not getting dressed. It is transformation. You become someone the everyday world does not get to see. Augmented reality will add layers that only exist digitally. Outfits with effects visible through your phone, wearables that interact with stage visuals in real time. 3D printing and AI-assisted design will make one-of-a-kind pieces accessible to everyone. And the pendulum between maximalism and minimalism will keep swinging because it always has. But the core will never change. Rave fashion will always be about freedom, about showing up as someone the daylight world does not expect. From warehouse floors to desert festivals, from baggy jeans and smiley faces to LED bodysuits and sustainable couture. Rave fashion has traveled an extraordinary distance in just over 3 decades. It has been co-opted, commercialized, mocked, revived, remixed, and reinvented more times than anyone can count. And it has never once stopped meaning something. Because every time someone stands in front of a mirror before a rave and chooses to become someone brighter, stranger, more alive than the world normally allows, they are continuing a tradition that started in a dark warehouse with a strobe light and a dream. 30 years, millions of outfits, one idea. You are free to be exactly who you want to be. If you love this deep dive into rave culture, subscribe for more electronic dance music documentaries every week.